It is 22 minutes past 7. It's emerged at least one of the children discovered in a shipping container in Essex was just 1 year old.
And investigators are now trying to establish how the group of 35 people came to be inside. Their story has brought renewed attention to the thousands of people who take unimaginable risks to try to enter the UK illegally. A warning, this report contains distressing footage. It's desperate and incredibly dangerous, but every year thousands risk everything for the chance of a better life in Britain, and the numbers are growing. In 2012, 11,000 migrants were caught trying to enter Britain illegally through ports in France and Belgium. Last year, it was 18,000. But for many, a journey that starts with so much hope ends in failure, and this time in tragedy. It was the sound of screaming and banging that alerted authorities to the 35 men, women and even children trapped in this container. It's not known where the container originated, but the journey from the migrants' home in Afghanistan is long and treacherous. 4,000 miles through Iran, Turkey and Greece to mainland Europe. And the uncomfortable truth is that they won't be the last to decide that however big the risks, staying at home would be worse. Let's speak to the former head of the UK Border Force, Tony Smith. Good morning to you. Very, very distressing being in this container, and very distressing for those who opened it up and found this group inside as well.
Indeed, it's a miserable business, really. You know, these people were very wide age range coming in, young people, old people, all concealed in a container. I think the point to make, it's very unusual for humans to be smuggled in containers. The Border Force do target containers. They're normally used for contraband or for illegal substances. So
and rare for them to be used because absolutely massive risks involved in putting human beings inside a sealed container.
Well, clearly, because there's no... I mean, it's unlikely that the traffickers had any real knowledge about what was going to happen to this container when they were loaded in there. So these things are transported on roads, they're parked in docksides for long periods of time, they're loaded onto vessels, and they could have stayed in there for days or weeks. That container could have sat at a dockside waiting collection by the transportation company, and no one would have been known they were there. So it's a really miserable business and an added dimension, a worrying dimension to illegal migration to this country.
There's the other case that we remember is the case in 2000 when the Chinese immigrants, a similar thing, but they came in, it was a refrigerated lorry, I understand, and you were involved in at the Border Force at that time as well. What effect did that have on your colleagues and you know, everybody?
Well, I worked in the Border Force in its various manifestations for over 40 years and saw a lot of really horrific incidents, but that one really did, you know, take the biscuit, because, if you imagine what it must be like to open a container and find, dead bodies inside when you're not expecting that to happen. You're actually looking for other things, and so, you know, it's a hugely miserable business, and what we really need to do is get after the criminal gangs that are behind this. Lots of money is being made from these people. They're giving up their life savings to criminals, and there will be a chain of criminals all the way from wherever they came from, originally in India, right the way into Belgium, over here, safe houses being used for the exploitation of people in this way.
Well, we understand actually that this group was Afghan Sikh group, so they came all the way, from Afghanistan. I just wonder, what do they expect? What do you understand, having worked in this area, about what they are told about this journey and how they're going to travel? Because this is a desperate way and so potentially risky.
Well, they've been duped, essentially. They've been promised something by somebody reasonably plausible, that if you pay me a certain amount of money, I can get you into the UK, we can find you work, you will have a better life for yourself. And in that respect, they are victims. I think they know that this isn't the proper route into the UK, that normally you would go and apply for a permit or a visa to come into this country, but they believe that this is a pucker organisation that's bringing them through. It's massive fraud. And it's a perilous journey, and lots of lives are lost along the way. So it's really important to target the human smugglers behind it.
Yeah. Tony, one more question. What happens to them now?
Well, they'll be processed by the Border Force. I mean, the first responders have done really well, haven't they? The police and that's the first thing. Make sure they're well, they're healthy, they're fit. They won't be interviewed until we're satisfied that they're fit and well enough to be interviewed. But we're trying to piece together a jigsaw here, which is, firstly, how did this container get to where it got to? That can be tracked, so there are systems available to track that. And the second thing is that people will be asked about their circumstance, about how they came into Europe, what they want to do now, do they want to stay in this country? If they do want to stay in this country, then obviously that application will be processed. It doesn't follow they will be allowed to stay in this country. It's illegal entry, so they're liable to removal, but there's a lot of work to be done before that's determined, I think.
Tony Smith, former head of the UK Border Force, thanks so much for your time this morning.